One bad Skylight installation can wipe out a huge chunk of your margin on a bit. Silicone joins, they can deteriorate after 12 months if they're not done well. Rivets, one small rivet can let in a lot of water. And we've all seen the damage of trying to pull out ceilings, fixing rotting rafters. And depending on the project size, these can run from $1,000, $2,000 up to tens of thousands. These aren't just minor defects, these are massive. And it's preventable. That's the most frustrating thing. It's ruining your reputation, causing endless callbacks to drain on your resources. I'm Jono Anderson from Luxord, and we've built Australia's most advanced welded skylight flashing system. Our goal is to eliminate leaks and warranty claims for good. At Luxord, we believe products should outlive their warranty, not expire with it. Today I want to break down the 5 brutal ways that skylights fail, and the true cost of these defects, and the one system that protects you and your projects from all of it. Now, number 1, and probably the biggest one we've all seen, it's the silicone. Now, I'll tell you a little story about one project we're a part of. On this project, it was a block of apartments. There was about 15 odd skylights across them, big double glazed units. And these skylights had a custom base made up, spot welded, and then silicone sealed. Now, at the time, this is about a decade ago, we thought these were the best on the market. And it's the way they've been done for a long time. And it's a process where they use a zinc aluminum base, spot weld the whole lot, and silicone seal it because it's not a continuous seal. Goes off, gets powder coated, looks beautiful when you install it. The only problem was about 12 months or so, we're asked to go back to, I think, 3 of the units there and inspect because they thought they had a leak. Now, these things I thought were pretty impenetrable. But when we got up on the roof and had a look at these units, what had actually happened, everywhere there was a silicone joint, it blistered the powder coating. And that blistering, when we started to poke at the silicone that's underneath there, it was all powdery and deteriorating. Couldn't work out what was going on with it. And we had a look at a few others and they'd done similar things. Pretty much every unit on there had done it. And inside, some of the units have been leaking for so long that the externals on the gyprock had started to rust out. And it's not a huge leak, we're talking just pinholes in there, but enough to cause quite a bit of damage. And we're talking about a 10-story apartment block. So getting units up and off the roof for old units and everything else, it's not an easy project. We're talking road closures, cranes, and the lot to get in there. So this project really opened my eyes to see some of the issues. And to be honest, this was what kick-started the idea for Luxord, is there's an issue here. An issue that when we took to a whole lot of other companies, they said, no, that's how it's always been done. This is good enough. That'll do it. That's just a one-off. What we discovered then was I went to a whole bunch of powder coaters and I said, what's the process for powder coating? How does this affect silicone? And what are the issues that might happen there? And so what we found, and we tested it with a whole lot of standard roofing silicones, Sika products, through to heat resistant products, fireproofing silicones, and we found the same thing with all of them. When all of them went through the powder coating process, and I'm not a scientist, but it changes them at a molecular level. And so when they come out, they lose that elasticity and they lose some of those properties that makes them a good sealant, particularly for metal products on a roof. And in the worst cases, it actually bubbles them, it almost boils the silicone as it goes through. But you don't always see it, and this is the tricky bit, is when it comes out from powder coating, they look like beautiful, clean joints. They look immaculate, and you put it up and it looks fantastic. But underneath, that silicone has already changed. It's already brittle, it's already powdery, and it's a matter of time before that powder coating flakes off and that whole joint is exposed. And in this case, it was a big job. It would have been a huge job to replace those units up there. And so understanding how silicone works, what it's for, what it's not for, and the best types. There's a huge variety of silicones out there, and there's some really, really good products, but relying on them, particularly now, like on concrete rooftops, where you've got no fall and you're relying on silicone joints, is a huge issue, risk and liability, that you as the builder have to carry, unfortunately. So looking for ways to eliminate that is what you want to look for. Number two big issues that we come across are rivets. Now rivets are another, like silicone, great product, really good quality units, been used for ages, but they've got to be treated right, just like silicone. They've got to be installed well and sealed well, and knowing how to do that, there's an art to it. And this isn't to take away from anything, but we are losing true craftsmen in the trade, and we all know it. The amount of good quality tradesmen is getting less and less year on year, and unfortunately, as they get less and less, the guys getting trained by good craftsmen are getting less and less. And the guys coming through just don't have the opportunity. It's actually not their fault. They don't have the opportunity to learn from someone how to do things well, how to do things correctly. And unfortunately, in today's industry, sometimes they're not given the time to do things correctly. Everything is such a squeeze, and riveting and doing it well does take time. And if that's not there, things are rushed, things get missed, and that's when you get problems. And so it's not that rivets are bad or wrong, it's just they're not treated well often. And as our roofs are shifting more from tile, we used to be majority tile in New South Wales at least, to majority metal, and they're not just shifting to metal, but they're also getting flatter and flatter and flatter as we try and push our building envelope higher and higher on smaller blocks. And now you're getting standard residential blocks with 10, 15 metre spans on a 1, 2, 3 degree roof. And that's a huge amount of water to be carrying down there. And that could be, potentially, depending on your roofing, a lot of rivets and a lot of points of failure that you're carrying as a builder. So understanding rivets, how they're used, and seeing if there's ways to reduce that amount of penetrations to, again, reduce your risk, reduce your liability on there. Number three of the issues, and kind of moving up the list of what causes the biggest issues, is bad product selection. And so when you're selecting a product, and particularly we're talking about Skylights here, selecting different Skylight products, understanding what the different products are, where the best application is for them. If we're talking about a Velux product, you've got your FCM ranges, you've got your FS ranges and your GGLs and attic room ranges. Understanding how and when to use them, and you don't want to be installing a fixed skylight over a shower, for instance. Having an opening one there, creating airflow for it. Otherwise, you're just asking for mold. It might not be a leak issue, but it's a mold issue, which can be even bigger inside the home, and that might not show up for 2 years down the track, depending on how the place is used. Using a GGL over a staircase where you can't really access it to open, or even a VS. VS can be quite, the manual opening, quite hard to open when they're high up. Selecting, the automatic opening ones with rain sensors. Thinking through the product and the best one to select for that area. Thinking through the pitch as well. If you need a flat roof one or a pitched roof one, which one's going to work best for it. So picking the right product for the unit is a huge one. Number 4, bad installation. And this kind of ties them all together in a way, but if you've got an installer or someone who calls himself an installer, he doesn't understand how to select the right product, how to use silicone correctly, how to use rivets correctly, you get all sorts of weird and, let's say, unique and creative installations. And doing a lot of repair work on behalf of Velux and warranty call-outs and inspections for them, I've seen a huge amount of, we'll call, very creative roofing out there. And unfortunately, creative roofing leaks a lot. And so seeing like a Velux on a tile roof, EDW flashings are fantastic for tile roofs, but someone on one of them decided to whack a flex or fast flash up over the top of the glass as well, and over the top of the tiles, and then over the top of the ridge. and there was probably about a grand's worth of fast flash or Wackerflex over the top of this unit. And so having the right products installed well, like bad installation just kills you, and poor design. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to good planning and design. As with everything, Skylights are the same. If you can pick all this up at the design level, you change everything. There was a job we went to a couple of years back up in the hills area of Sydney, and this job wasn't a cheap one. We're talking a $1.5–2 million build out there, and they had 4, 5, maybe 6 hobs on a concrete roof, and this was over in our fresco/pool area, so letting in a whole lot of light to those areas. Now, they'd called out a couple of companies, and quite a few, as you should, recommended having a bit of fall on them, on the concrete hobs, so the glass doesn't pond, and having correct flashings. Anyway, this client builder, I don't know who made the final decision there, chose against all that. And they went and bought themselves half a dozen FS Skylights, the fixed Skylights. Now that those Skylights are made to go on a 15-degree roof. Now, if you know the Skylights, you know when you open up the box, it comes with a little angle on it. It's about a 45mm angle that goes all the way around. They have thought that's a great way to fix it down to the concrete. What they've done is run a bead of silicone around the concrete hob, squelched that Velux down onto it, and then had the audacity to ring Velux and tell them their product was faulty and leaking. And if you read the manual, it quite clearly says those ones need to be at 15 degrees and it needs a flashing. They hadn't done any of those things. So we've been called out there for Velux, taken a whole bunch of photos and a few videos on that one, and had to, basically, they've got to be all redone, lifted up. Now, you could reuse those ones, in essence, if you've got them on a 15-degree base, but ultimately they had to be swapped out, and they ended up with FCMs, I believe, on a 5-degree pitch, so you got water runoff, but that's a huge cost to replace. Half a dozen Skylights plus the flashings is a huge added cost for a builder, for a client, for everyone, and doesn't leave anyone happy at the end of it. You've got an unhappy client, unhappy builder, unhappy installers, if the installer's even around, the original guy, going through there. So if you wrap up all 5 of these, come under good design. If you start bringing in your roof plumber, bringing in your roofer, bringing in your Skylight installer at the design phase, they can help you work through the best selection. So picking a good design, thinking through how we get water flow around that Skylight, particularly if you're going to go a landscape Skylight on some of these longer, flatter roofs, thinking through the water flow issues that you're going to face. And look, we all know that we're getting more and more rain in shorter periods of time, so that downpour factor is huge. Making sure you've got good runoff around penetrations, particularly longer or wider penetrations on a roof. Getting that design in, and for your trusses, when we've got trusses, we're limited in what we can do, and knowing which Skylights you can turn 90 degrees, which ones you can't turn 90 degrees, how will you work that into trusses? You want to get that into the plan stage before you send it off to your truss company. And that way, when you come to install your roof, everything just flows. And it's going to save you a fortune when you do it that way. Planning it, getting the right people involved early on. When it's just at plan stage, when it's in pencil, when it's on computer in CAD, it's a lot cheaper to make the changes then than it is once the roof's actually up. And then you're going to know that that person you've got is going to install it right, it's going to be sealed right, and it's going to last the right amount of years. You're going to have full coverage on all your warranties, and you're not going to worry about it. You're not going to have a liability. You're going to have an asset. You're going to have a beautifully designed, open, natural Skylight, allowing light to flow into the home or in whatever you're designing, and you're not going to worry about leaks. You knock out that liability off your plate, and you can sleep easy knowing that all your Skylights are done correctly. The water's going to get around. You're not going to get a call back 2 years later, 3 years later for a leaking Skylight. Pick it up at the planning stage. Get the right people involved early and enjoy your Skylights. Turn your liabilities into assets and make them a feature for your next client. See you on the next one.